Check. Is that good? Is that good?
I don't know. People in the back.
Is that check?
Lower it.
How's that? Better? Okay.
Right, the audience, keep making some noise for Nora Brouder. Ladies and gentlemen, Nora Brouder with Follow in 3, 2, 1, begin.
If I were to tell a story about how I can't follow the crowd, it probably wouldn't go the way you'd think. There would be no moments of intense revelation, no protests against major issues, no life of hermithood or of nunhood, nothing intentional, nothing easily explicable. Because I always wanted to fit in with the crowd, to follow the lead of the popular kids, but generally I could not. Take, for example, dressing myself in elementary school. When all the other girls were wearing Keds and short-alls from the Gap, in my head that translated to follow your own found fashion sense. And I did. I would walk around Marshall's on trips with my mom, only pausing when my fingertips brushed across something that felt unusual. Synthetic fabrics were my favorites, and I could never pass up a good mesh shirt, shiny skirt, or swishy pair of pants. But the oddness of my sartorial leanings never seemed to strike me. Perhaps I separately understood two concepts. One, that all of the cool kids dressed pretty similarly, and two, that I really liked picking out my own clothes. But I didn't get that my unique fashion sense set me aside and prevented me from following the crowd and fitting in. Somewhere around second grade, I found the newest object of my affection, a blue vinyl skirt and vest set. I believe it was from the American Girl doll catalog. I begged and I pleaded, and finally it was mine. Its debut came the day after Christmas at a Boxing Day party. I bustled in with my parents, who, as always, held their tongue and let me dress myself however I saw fit. This was Massachusetts in deep winter, and so part of the party ambiance came from a roaring fire in the main room. I made my way over to the gaggle of kids that had gathered by the fireplace, hoarding cookies and other treats, and all wearing festive sweaters and velvet dresses that could have come from the same page of an L.L. Bean catalog. My outfit apparently stuck out. And here I learned a new fact about my prized plastic play suit. Tipped off by someone's father, one of the kids pointed out that my ensemble would most certainly melt if I got too close to the fireplace. And here, in this moment, as the children chortled, I laughed along with everyone else about my hot outfit, but I hadn't followed the joke, because the joke was on me. Second grade and the Boxing Day party didn't end my fascination with plastic clothing, nor my inability to follow the cool crowd in their subpar sartorial sense. In fact, it only increased from there. The next year, for Christmas, my mother gave me the best present ever, a pair of black pleather pants. Ambrose Elementary held 2 choral concerts each year, one at the holidays and another in the spring. These concerts had a dress code, and apparently it was one I didn't follow. Somehow, all the other mothers knew about an unspoken understanding to outfit their daughters in floral pastel dresses for the spring show. But I took the instruction of "look your best" to mean it's time for pleather. I thought I'd never looked so fabulous, but don't think that all the other mothers didn't follow up with mine for fucking with their otherwise picturesque tableau. My next step in embracing pleather fully was a classic one. I found one day, while following my fingertip fashion sense, a snakeskin printed pleather jacket. The sleek material slid on my tiny frame, and I'd never felt so complete. My mother, always a peach, purchased me the piece. At the time, I was spending afternoons at play practice, attempting to lay the groundwork for a fruitful and extensive career as a famous actress. One of the cool older kids, Nat, took a liking to my jacket. One day, he even put it on and did a Michael Jackson impression, or whatever a 6th grader in 2000 would do to resemble the king of pop. I assumed the crowd's hysterical laughter was merely for the impression, and that my tickled peers thought highly of my coat, thankful for its ability to serve alongside such a comic. But again, I wasn't following their fashion, and I didn't follow their joke. The funny in the moment, I later realized, came from the weird 10-year-old girl in her snakeskin pleather jacket. As I recount these tales of my inability to follow the pack because of my fashion faux pas, I don't want to paint a pessimistic picture, For each time, as I've said, I didn't get that the joke was on me. Ignorance is bliss, especially when you're fully decked out in pint-sized pleather pieces. So I coasted by. I knew I was a little uncool, but never guessed it was due to their plain Jane fashion trends I refused to follow. My parents always told me I was special, and special kids wear special things. So on the morning of my first day at my new big middle school, I commemorated the occasion by wearing a tiara. And I will say very honestly that I don't remember this tiara episode, because in case any of you managed to forget the hell of middle school, it's where kids are actually transformed into horrible, merciless devils. I've inferred that so many mean things must have been said to me that day, the kind of direct, unmasked insults that I had no trouble following, that I blocked the entire episode out of my memory. Years later, my close friends, who at the start of middle school I hadn't yet known, made a joke about the crown, and I discovered the giant hole in my memory. You may be unsurprised to hear that due to middle school meanies, my fearless insistence on following my own fashion sense sort of crumbled, and I began forcing my mother to endure torturous hours at Abercrombie & Fitch so I could look like everyone else. And unsurprisingly, my pleather collection dwindled and eventually disappeared. But as the years went by, I learned the lesson that cool was relative. I learned that anyone who peaked in middle school was no one worth admiring, and I slowly rebuilt faith in following my own feelings, especially in terms of dressing myself. The story has a happy ending, which is that I now work in fashion and cater to other girls who seek out the extraordinary. A few months ago, I proudly emailed my still supportive mother a bio that was appearing alongside my writing at work. It was a small thing, just a few sentences, but it nicely signified how far I'd come. She emailed me back, saying she'd have put in a line about the pleather concert debut, and then added, "One of my proudest moments, actually. Just glad it didn't get completely beaten out of you in the middle school ringer. I'm glad that I followed my heart and wore sometimes funny fashions as a child, and I'm glad I was too set on my stellar style to follow the jokes that were made about me, and I am so fucking glad that my memories of being a kid don't revolve around feebly following just another leader."
Ladies and gentlemen,